Hi. I guess we'll talk about the books I read in March. The first book that I read in March was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan McGuire, which is the second book in the Wayward Children series. The first book is Every Heart a Doorway. And if you don't know what this series is about, it's about teenagers who have gone to different magical worlds and have come back to the regular world, and they're having trouble dealing with being back in the regular world. So they go to this boarding school for those kids. The first book took place in the boarding school, with following mostly a new student. And this book actually takes place before Every Heart a Doorway. Technically, you could read this before you read Every Heart a Doorway. I mean, I don't think you would be confused in any way. But I feel like you should still read Every Heart a Doorway first, even though this one takes place first. Because you would have very different feelings about it. You would have very different thoughts about it, because there are a few things in the story that are like mildly discussed in Every Heart a Doorway, and then you get to actually like find out about them in detail in this. So this story follows Jack and Jill, and what happened to them when they went through their doorway into their magical world, which was the Moors, which is like this dark underworld that has like mad scientists and werewolves and vampires. And it was, I loved this with every bit of my soul. I loved it so much. I loved this with every fiber of my being. This is definitely my new favorite series, even though I've only read the first two, but I did some tabbing. It's such a short book. These are all under 200 pages. I have nothing but wonderful, wonderful things to say about them. They're magical and thoughtful and deep, and I just... My mom is watching Schitt's Creek. Good, finally. It's beautifully, lyrically written. The writing is so lovely. The characters are so strong, even though the stories are so short. You feel like you wouldn't have much time to really get to know them, but you do, and I love it so much. And I immediately went to my bookstore in my town and asked her to order the next two books for me. I don't think they've come in yet, but as soon as they come in, I'm reading them immediately. So I obviously gave this 5 stars. The next book that I read was Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. I gave this 3 stars on Goodreads. When I wrote my review, I said it was maybe more of 3.5, but now thinking about it, I feel like it's closer to just a regular 3. But I don't know. It was good. It was enjoyable. It was fun. I'm going to say a little forgettable, because I'm having trouble coming up with the description for you of what it's about. It's about a girl whose family was murdered. Her whole family was murdered, and she was like, they attempted to murder her. It didn't work. She has this like eye implant and this like brain implant with these like chips in her to like give her memories. Otherwise she wouldn't remember what happened to her before the accident. And this is also like way in the future. There's like robots and everything. She has a little robot friend and a robot dog, and they end up coming across this, what's called a lifelike, which is a robot that can bleed, but also heals itself very quickly. And they basically can have human emotions and everything, and they learn the way that humans do. She comes across this lifelike, and then she ends up finding out a whole bunch of secrets about her past. And then there's a bunch of action and war and stuff going on, because she can like destroy machines with her mind, and so people want her. And so there's a bunch of people who are after her, and a bunch of people in her life who aren't who she thought they were. And then also this lifelike robot who's a robot, but is very attractive. So it was good. It was enjoyable. It was fun. I felt like the characters were pretty flat. It was just very full of action. Some of the banter was good. Some of the banter I wasn't really a huge fan of. Some of the characters, I kind of liked aspects of them, but then I didn't like other aspects of them. And I felt like the twist was not very twisty. I called it from like the very beginning of the book, which, so maybe that's just me. I call twists pretty easily. Or maybe it just wasn't very twisty. And I just felt like the romance in it was a little cheesy, insta-lovey, unbelievable, in my opinion. So there were things about it where I was like, There was also a chunk in the middle that I thought was kind of boring. So, like, it was good, and it was fine. I gave this 3 stars. And the last book I read was The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman, which is the 3rd book in the His Dark Materials trilogy. Couldn't tell you why it's called His Dark Materials. Not a clue. I decided not to straighten my hair for this video, and it just looks like it's just going and it's bugging me so much. I don't like it. I don't like it. Oh, Gherkin is telling me to like it. He says, like yourself, Nat. Your hair is beautiful. Thank you, Gherkin. Thanks. I love you too. There were some questions throughout the entire trilogy that was like, this is the point of the trilogy. Like, this is like the whole reason for the story being a thing, in my opinion, was not answered. So that's annoying. Overall, though, I did really enjoy it. You can tell I really loved the middle. I loved the characters. I loved Lyra and Will's storyline. This follows 3 storylines, this particular book. And for the most part, the other storylines were interesting as well, but I loved Lyra's and Will's. I loved the adventure that they went on, the worlds that they went to, the people that they met, and the things that they learned about the worlds that they went to and how those worlds work, and the kinds of spirits that follow them around, or the types of their own spirits that follow them around, like how in Lyra's world they have the demons, which is your soul that lives outside of you in the form of an animal, right? And so there's like different things similar to that aspect that they find out in different worlds that they go to. I feel like there was a lot of really comforting thoughts and comforting ideas that I really liked. So as a whole, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this series. I just felt like the ending was a little flat, disappointing. It didn't really answer the questions that I was hoping to have answered. Some of them were answered, but in kind of like a wishy-washy, oh, I guess we should answer that kind of way. Like, okay, here's a quick little explanation I just made up. That's what they kind of felt like to me, which is a little disappointing. I feel like is pretty common when it comes to books that have a common question that travels throughout the book. I feel like they start the first book not really knowing the answer to this question, and then they get to the end and they're like, oh shit, I didn't answer that question, I better make something up. That's what it felt like to me. I felt like there were some inconsistencies between the rules of the different worlds, and again, some of the inconsistencies that I found were explained, but again in a way that's like, I guess we should come up with an explanation for that. Like, it didn't feel genuine to me. It didn't feel like it really fit. So that was annoying. But again, overall, really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 stars. In my review, I did say it might be closer to 3.5, but I feel like maybe more like a 3.75 because it's definitely better. Like, I enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed Lifelike. And there were parts of it that I enjoyed more than the first 2 books in this trilogy. But then there were other parts that I didn't like. There were some parts that I thought were kind of boring, and some parts... Oh, there were parts of this that were just, like, way over my head. The whole trilogy, there were parts that were just, like... I can't believe this is a series for 10-year-olds. Like, there's no way. I mean, okay, maybe there are some 10-year-olds that could grasp the concept of the stuff that happens in these books, but, like... I mean, some of it was hard for me to grasp. And I'm a full-grown adult. There's another trilogy that takes place in this world. I don't know what it's about. The first book in it is called The Book of Dust. I'm not sure if I want to read that or not. I don't know. So those are the books that I read in March. I guess that's all. Have a good day. Bye.